Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and a very warm welcome to Government House Yarralumla. Dawa Nuna, Dawa Nunuwel. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Nunuwel people, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present, emerging leaders, and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders that may be gathered with us today. My name is Paul Singer and I'm the Official Secretary to the Governor-General. And as this badge signifies with its cross quills, I'm also the Secretary of the Order of Australia, whose Council recommends appointments and awards in the General Division to the Governor-General, who is Chancellor and Principal Companion of the Order. I'm also the Secretary to the Australian Bravery Decorations Council, the body which makes recommendations to the Governor-General for bravery awards. Before we start today's ceremony, I'd like to acknowledge that despite the challenges posed by the current pandemic, we are delighted to be able to host this morning's ceremony in a COVID-safe manner. We are grateful for your understanding of and compliance with the measures that have been put in place to assist with everyone's safety. Today is a special day, not only for the recipients, but also for their friends, their families, and their community members. It is a day when we celebrate a diverse range of impressive achievements and service. The Australian Honours System provides a wonderful mechanism through which we as a nation can recognise and celebrate ordinary Australians doing extraordinary things. Since its inception in 1975, over 420,000 people have been recognised for their meritorious, bravery, military or national service. The Order of Australia is the principal means of recognising outstanding service, and it's important to note that nominations come from all parts of the community. Anyone can nominate. As staff at Government House, my colleagues and I are privileged to play a small part in the recognition and celebration of that achievement. I hope we can help make today an occasion that you'll all recall with pride for some time to come. Shortly, I'll invite you to stand as Their Excellencies the Governor-General and Mrs Hurley enter the room, and then please remain standing for the singing of the first verse of the Australian National Anthem. The investiture will then begin and proceed in the order listed in your programs. After I read their names and citations, the recipients will enter the room from the doorway on my right, and after they've been invested, will leave by the central aisle to take up their seats at the back of the room. At this point, you might like to show your appreciation with a short applause as the recipients return to their seat. At the conclusion of the ceremony, I'll invite recipients to join Their Excellencies for a formal photograph on the state entrance stairs. And after those photographs have been taken, Their Excellencies and the recipients look forward to joining you all in the dining room and out in the lakeside terrace where refreshments will be offered. So ladies and gentlemen, please relax and enjoy this very special occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand for the arrival of Her Excellencies, the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia and Mrs Hurley, and for the singing of the Australian National Anthem.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to Government House Yarralumla on a very special occasion in the lives of our recipients and their families and supporters, friends who are gathered here this morning. This week and last week, these ceremonies are the highlight of the calendar here at Government House. We're delighted to be able to share the occasion with you and look forward to meeting you all in our time together following the formal ceremony. I begin by acknowledging that Government House here at Yarralumla sits on the land of the Ngunnawal people, and I thank them for their care and concern for this land for generation and after generation, and pay respects to their elders past and present. This is a special occasion, as I said. It's an occasion for us to acknowledge the tremendous contributions that these remarkable Australians have made to our country. And one of the unique aspects of our honours and awards system is it belongs to you. The nominations, particularly for those from the civilian or the general order, come from the community, come from peers. I want you to bear that in mind as we conduct the ceremony this morning, because I'm going to issue some homework in my concluding address. And that's your homework, not mine. Now, I know Paul has said to relax. This is, as I've said, a very important ceremony. There's a lot of pomp and protocol, as there should be, rightly so. But it's also an Australian Government House, so please relax, smile, applaud at the appropriate times, and enjoy this occasion. Over the last 12 months, since Linda and I came here to Yarralumla, and certainly my time as Governor of New South Wales, Australia has been through a difficult time. Drought, of course, for many years, floods, bushfires, horrific bushfires over the last bushfire season, and of course a pandemic that is taking an emotional toll, an economic toll in our country at the present time. Over the last 3.5, 4 months, since we haven't been able to travel as freely as we would, Linda and I have used nearly every virtual meeting app known to man to communicate with leaders at many, many levels through our community and those who are working hard for community around the country. After every one of those phone calls, I come away and uplifted and reinforced in my view of the strength and goodness of the people of Australia. Now, I can be told, and I have been once or twice, that I see Australia through rose-coloured glasses. Well, if that's the case, that's the case, but I don't believe it is. Every day of the year, I see Australians doing great things for each other. And today, the microcosm of that, the tip of the iceberg, as we recognise the recipients this morning, and as we will during the rest of the week. I'm an optimist about Australia. I'm an optimist in general, but I'm an optimist about Australia. And the character, the strength, the goodness of Australian people on display today will see us through a very difficult time. But on that note, I will now commence the formal ceremony and we'll acknowledge the good deeds of our fellow citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, to be presented with the insignia of his appointment as an officer in the General Division, Professor Bruce Chapman, for distinguished service to higher education, particularly in the field of economics and public policy, and to professional societies. Professor Chapman is widely recognised as one of the best known and one of the most influential of Australian academics. He was responsible for the development of the Higher Education Contribution Scheme, which opened up higher education to many. The scheme was particularly benefited people from lower socio-economic backgrounds and rural and regional areas who had previously been unable to afford the cost of attaining a degree. The scheme he developed has been adapted for use in New Zealand, England, Hungary, South Korea, Japan, and the Netherlands, with scoping work currently being undertaken by Brazil. Professor Chapman has had a long and distinguished career, and his work on economic policy over the last 30 years has improved the educational outcome for millions of Australians and people worldwide. Professor Bruce Chapman, appointed an officer of the Order.
Thank you for the doors and the opportunity you created for so many young Australians. I know my family did, and many English people as well. Okay. If I lose the first one in a week, we're in a bad run.
To be presented with the insignia of his appointment as a member in the General Division, Dr. Graham Walboys, for significant service to conservation and the environment and to the community. Dr. Walboys has given dedicated service during his long career in environmental and protected area management and nature conservation, not only in the academic sphere, but also in the New South Wales National Parks and Wildlife Service. His experience has enabled him to make an outstanding contribution to world protected area policy, particularly through his work with the International Union of Conservation and Nature. He's also been a vital contributor to UNESCO World Heritage, which has benefited from his combined heritage protection and geological expertise. Dr. Walboys' energy, insight and persistence have been critical in ensuring that protected areas in Australia and globally are better managed and their values more widely appreciated. Dr. Graham Walboys appointed a member of the Order. To be presented with the insignia of his appointment as a member in the Military Division, Captain Shane Craig, for exceptional performance of duty in the Royal Australian Navy command and management positions. Captain Craig has provided dedication and commitment to the Royal Australian Navy during a career of over 38 years. As an aviation warfare officer, he served in HMAS ships Canberra, Melbourne, Anzac and Sydney, and was deployed on Operations Slipper, Falconer and Catalyst. He was a commanding officer of 816 Squadron, Deputy Commander Fleet Air Arm, and served as Navy's representative in London. In his commanding officer role, he improved the performance and reputation of the Fleet Air Arm, and as our naval advisor to the United Kingdom, he has strengthened the strategic relationships between our Navy and the Royal Navy. Captain Craig's efforts have been major contributors to the progressing Navy's and the Australian Defence Force's international engagement objectives. Captain Shane Craig appointed a member of the Order. To be presented with the insignia of his appointment as a member in the Military Division, Air Commodore Gerald van Leeuwen, for exceptional service to the Australian Defence Force in aerospace capability development, major capital acquisition and air combat sustainment. Air Commodore van Leeuwen is a senior officer of extraordinary skill who has made a significant contribution to our Defence Force. He served as a test director for Project Air 5402, where he led all aspects of the KC-30A Advanced Refuelling Boom System flight test program in support of that aircraft's acquisition. As the Director of Air Mobility and Tanker Projects, he was key to the success of Project Air 8000 Phase 2 to acquire the C-27J Battlefield Airlifter. He implemented sustainment governance systems for the F-35A Joint Strike Fighter as the inaugural officer commanding of the Air Combat System Program Office. Air Commodore van Leeuwen's technical prowess and leadership over 30 years of dedicated service have delivered tangible benefits in the aerospace sector for defence. Air Commodore Gerald van Leeuwen appointed a member of the Order. be presented with the insignia of his award of the Medal of the Order in the General Division, Dr. Walter Obaya Rudner, for service to medicine in the Australian Capital Territory. Dr. Obaya Rudner is an excellent clinician who has contributed to the development and expansion of cardiac services in the Canberra region. He has provided a very high standard of safe clinical care to patients at Canberra Hospital and has also provided leadership in undertaking major quality initiatives and new models of care to improve patient safety and outcomes. He is an established clinical researcher and mentors postgraduate medical trainees at both the Australian National University and the Canberra Hospital. Dr. Obaya Rudner has demonstrated an extraordinary commitment to his patients and to his profession. Dr. Walter Obaya Rudner awarded the Medal of the Order. To be presented with the insignia of her award of the Medal of the Order in the General Division, Ms. Anna Prosser, for service to women and to the community of the Australian Capital Territory. Ms. Prosser has been an important contributor to the ACT community for many years. She's been a long-standing member of the Women's International Club and through the employment of soft diplomacy has helped to integrate and enrich the lives of international visitors and short-term residents to Canberra. She uses these networks in her fundraising efforts to assist charities such as Maboba's Promise and in her work with the Canberra International Music Festival. Ms. Prosser is one of those unique individuals whose efforts have benefited many areas of community life. Ms. Anna Prosser awarded the Medal of the Order. To be presented with the insignia of his award of the Conspicuous Service Medal, Chief Petty Officer Noel for meritorious achievement in whole ship leadership and performance of duty as a senior sailor in HMAS Harmon from January 2017 to June 2019. Chief Petty Officer Christoffel's tenure as HMAS Harmon occurred during the revival of the shore-based identity and belonging as a ship's company. His endeavours have been important to improved cohesion, pride, morale and performance throughout Harmon's command element. He also embarked upon a program to educate and qualify personnel to fulfil a range of duties, including improving the role of Watchbill Coordinator. Chief Petty Officer Christoffel has demonstrated the values, behaviours and the professionalism that today's Navy requires for cultural renewal and personnel retention. Chief Petty Officer Noel Christoffel awarded the Conspicuous Service Medal. To be presented with the insignia of his award of the Conspicuous Service Medal, Sergeant Dane Anderson, for meritorious achievement in developing virtual training systems integrated with existing live, virtual and constructive training that has enhanced Australian Army training methods and assisted the capability of international partners. Sergeant Anderson has been instrumental in developing innovative solutions that blend live, virtual, constructive and gaming training systems. He collaborated with defence industry to achieve a seamless digital fires architecture that has resulted in a major improvement over traditional methods of training personnel of an artillery regiment. While deployed on Operation Augury, he augmented in-service training tools with commercial software to train elements of the Philippine Armed Forces. Sergeant Anderson's innovation allows for realistic training at a fraction of the resource cost required for live fire training. Sergeant Dane Anderson awarded the Conspicuous Service Medal. To be presented with the insignia of his award of the Conspicuous Service Medal, Brigadier Paul Northart, for meritorious devotion to duty as the Deputy Commander of Joint Task Force 633, whilst deployed on Operation Accordion from November 2017 to August 2018. Brigadier Northart was the second in command of all Australian sea, land, air and special forces deployed across the Middle East and Afghanistan in support of 5 operations in 8 countries. During periods as acting commander, he led the extraction of the Air Task Group strike element and reduction of the Special Operations Task Group in Iraq. His ability to implement change ensured that the Joint Task Force could successfully transition to a deployed team who could design and offer operational options. Brigadier Northart fostered a valued command and leadership culture which drew significant praise from the task groups that Joint Task Force 633 supported. Brigadier Paul Northart awarded the Conspicuous Service Medal. To be presented with the insignia of his award of the Emergency Services Medal, Mr. Mubin Coco, for distinguished service to the ACT State Emergency Service. Mr. Coco has been an active member of the Australian Capital Territory State Emergency Service since 2014. He's held a number of senior positions, including as team leader and deputy commander of the Rivers Unit, and has provided training, mentoring and support to a large number of volunteers. He's been integral to the welfare of ACT SES volunteers through his tireless work in the development of an online tool to streamline hazard identification and risk management. Mr. Coco's efforts have contributed significantly to the operation of the ACT SES and to the safety of the Canberra community. Mr. Mubin Coco awarded the Emergency Services Medal. To be presented with the insignia of her award of the Australian Corrections Medal, Ms. Jean Daly, for distinguished service to Corrective Services New South Wales. Ms. Daly has commenced her service with the Corrective Services New South Wales in 2004. She's been pivotal to ensuring the provision of custody-based and community-based programs. Excuse me. She's been pivotal in ensuring the provision of custody-based and community-based programs and services that support behavioural changes in offenders. She was instrumental in the design and development of programs, particularly for young offenders, to ensure they are given access to and provided with specialist services, particularly for those with mental health issues. Ms. Daly's unwavering commitment involves her travelling to 15 correctional centres throughout the state, as well as to 25 community correction officers. Ms. Jean Daly awarded the Australian Corrections Medal. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the presentations this morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've acknowledged each of the recipients individually. I think it'd be appropriate now to acknowledge them as a group. Well done all. Thank you. Now, on a normal occasion, we would acknowledge up to about 30 or 40 people per ceremony. Of course, current constraints mean our numbers are smaller and we're conducting more of those ceremonies. So in a sense of watching the variety of contributions come through, it's a bit distorted on each of the smaller ceremonies. But overall, we are still in our honours and awards system only recognising in our numbers, 40% of the recipients are women. That's not sufficient and it needs to improve and improve dramatically. Our multicultural representation is not where it should be, nor is our Indigenous representation. So your homework, if you look at the general order, the civilian order, you have seen a small window of the variety of activities, contributions that people are acknowledged. I need you to go back home, and those that are watching, into your community. You know the people who are working hard, have been diligent, have changed community, uplifted community. Please nominate. Paul will give you some advice on how to do it. I'm here to urge you to do it. And in 2 years' time, I would like to see the results of that flowing through this room at an investiture ceremony. In your hands, because it is your system. Of course, we will lead it, push it, play our role, but your nominations are absolutely critical. So I look forward to seeing the results of your homework and marking it. We will now complete the ceremony, as there will be a few formal activities as Paul will describe. But again, thank you for coming along. Thank you for the support, particularly families that you provide for our recipients. And we look forward to meeting you in a few moments outside in the beautiful spring day here in Canberra. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, to assist with the homework that the Governor-General has issued, I do encourage you to look at the Governor-General's website, where there's plenty of information on how to nominate someone that you think is worthy for recognition within the Order of Australia. We look forward to welcoming those successful nominations back here for an investiture ceremony such as this in the years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, shortly I'll invite you to stand for the departure of Her Excellencies the Governor-General, Mrs. Hurley, and invite the recipients to proceed to the state entrance stairs for a photograph with their Excellencies. Could I ask that guests remain briefly in the room here until such time as Their Excellencies and the recipients have departed, and then Their Excellencies and recipients look forward to joining with all guests in the dining room and out on the lakeside terrace for refreshments. Would you please stand for the farewell of Her Excellencies the Governor-General, Mrs. Hurley, and for the recipients. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. I now invite you to proceed through the dining room and out onto the lakeside terrace where refreshments will be served. Thank you and good morning.